The college football playoff quarterfinals are here. We're going to break down all 4 games for you guys. We hope everyone out there had a Merry Christmas, and we hope you have a Happy New Year. Lance, let's just jump right into it, man. Let's start with a little bowl season, the most wonderful time of the year. For the past, 7, 8, 9 years, it's been kind of bowl season, doesn't matter. A lot of these teams, a lot of these games out there, they are really showing that they do care about these games. Certain teams obviously care more than others, but what's a couple takeaways? I know we've had a lot of good games, a lot of really close games, just crazy games with double-digit comebacks and underdogs winning outright, and this stuff is so hard to bet on, but it's just fun to watch, man. What are some of your takeaways from bowl games so far?
Well, I think you said it best yesterday in a text message. You said this whole bowl season is like just hammered drunk every game. Yep. Just about. And it's the case. When you get a bunch of teams that have interim coaches and grad assistants that are getting their first shot at coaching, and teams that are starters everywhere that are not playing, and guys that are trying to prove themselves, you get what you get in this bowl season. And to be honest with you, yeah, this has been so far up here on Saturday, December the 28th, it has been one of the better bowl seasons up to this point of recent memory. So many close games. Like at one point, I think it was like 6 of the last 7 games had ended in one possession, like one possession games. And that carried into yesterday until Diego Pavia. And that actually ended up being one possession, didn't it? 35-27, I think was the final. I mean, the score was not that close the way the game went. But still, Vandy, put a beat down on Georgia Tech. Arkansas put a beat down on Texas Tech. But really, other than that, man, I mean, the majority of these games have been incredible games. Like you said, it's obvious that the players that are playing in these games definitely care, whether people have opted out or not. Maybe that's the new thing with bowl season. Like, dude, there were some players for Arkansas that none of us had ever seen play before that looked good, that were good-looking football players, good-looking athletes, that were making plays. And that was just an example. Like the Toledo Pitt game was nuts. And, dude, how about Pat Narduzzi at the end of that game with coaching malpractice and stuff, and then he just walks off the field, doesn't even go shake Jason Candle's hand.
Yep.
Typical just Pat Narduzzi stuff there at the end. And then last night, your boy here at Texas A&M -3. I went to bed at the end of the third quarter, and it was 24-7 Ags. And I woke up and saw that USC ended their season the same way they began it, throwing a touchdown pass with 6 seconds to go in Vegas against an SEC team to win. Just unbelievable that Texas A&M allowed USC to have that fourth quarter that they had. I mean, dude, you really got to work at it to blow a 24-7 lead in one quarter like that. Remarkable.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, that was another one. USC had guys on offense that a lot of us had not seen before that were like, where have these guys been? That were making plays and looked good, that now going into next year, people are going to be talking about some of those guys going into the season that are going to be good weapons for Lincoln Riley and USC. So that's all the positives from bowl season. But, dude, the negative, I mean, you and I were kind of talking about it off air. The political world, the political debates and the political just divisiveness that we've had as a country.
ESPN debate shows.
Yeah. ESPN debate shows. I mean, so many things that we have that are just divisive and are just, it's either one way or the other. There's no gray area. There's like not two things can be true. You have to be on one side or the other. And then whatever side you're on, you just absolutely hate and throw hate and just bitch at the other side. That is carried over into the college football world. And like, dude, it's hard to even get on. Like, I love just scrolling through X and social media and like reading takes from people and reading people's, analysis during games. I've had to stay off of it because so many people are just miserable human beings right now. And I know we talked about it last time, but it's unbelievable, man. People can't watch a single damn football game without going one play, without going to X and just live tweeting, not even about the play on the field. And I'm going to say it. There are so many fans around college football that I hate using this saying, but it's never been more true. The SEC is rent freaking free in so many people's heads. Like, it's unbelievable. I can't go a single tweet on our timeline without somebody trashing teams that aren't even playing and aren't even in these games. And it wasn't just a college football playoff. It's carried over into bowl season. It's remarkable, man. Like I told you before we went on air, I'll say it live here. There's many of you that's very abundantly clear that your favorite team from your favorite conference has been getting those cheeks clapped for many years from teams from the SEC, and you're just letting all of that frustration out on Twitter. And to be honest with you, most of you are making an ass of yourselves. Like, it's a joke. It's a joke that many of you are huge college football like fans, and you actually cover this sport, and you with a serious and straight face can go tweet out some of these bowl games as if that they are really a good barometer to try to tell, like, between teams and between conferences. All right, I'm off my soapbox. Wanted to get that out.
It's not going to stop anytime soon.
No, it's not.
It's not going to stop unfortunately, during the New Year's Eve and New Year's Day bowl games. I'm sure people will be tweeting about it. Everybody cares what they have to say, and they put it on Twitter. It was nice, during Christmas and all that stuff, to just get off of Twitter for a while. No games were on. Didn't have to really follow much. Transfer portal here, it's December 28th. It's about noon on December 28th, noon Eastern. So transfer portal is actually closing, I think, tomorrow.
Yep.
For the people who, obviously for the playoff teams, they can hop in. So we've got a heck of a slate of games today. We've got the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Everyone loves the Pop-Tarts Bowl. It's in Miami, Iowa State. You got Colorado, BYU. You got Dion and Kalani Sitake last night doing a press conference and just talking about how, like, they're here to win. Like, they're here to compete because they were picked to finish, 14th and 13th in the Big 12. So they made it for this far. Like, it's a good prize for them. So
yep.
He was talking the same thing, talking about teams and coaches who are like, say, we don't want to be here. Like, why would you not want to be here? Like, some coaches and teams need to get realistic about their expectations of actually making the playoff. And when you do make a bowl game, actually get excited about it.
Like, to your point, man, Colorado was like what? Like a 2-win team, 1-win team, just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for them to be in a bowl game like this, in a primetime matchup, no pun intended, like it's a big deal. It should be a big deal for Colorado. And I'm really happy, man, to see Coach Prime and Colorado taking the stance that they've taken in this game and everything that they've said about it. And you know how Kalani Sitake is, bro. He's the type, kind of like a Kyle Whittingham from same state there at Utah. I mean, Matt Campbell, Iowa State, some of those coaches, Chris Kleiman, K-State. Don't care if the game's played in a freaking parking lot. Like, literally, Kalani Sitake said, like, if there were no cameras here or nothing, we'd still want to play. Like, I don't care if we play in a scrimmage somewhere. Like, we want to play football. We love football. We want to play football. And to your point earlier about the bowl season, there's a lot of these teams you can tell that with the players they do have on the field, man, they just love football. They're excited to be there, and they're playing their butts off. Mm-hmm. So, good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the quarterfinals. Let's just jump right into it. Fiesta Bowl, New Year's Eve, 7:30 p.m. Eastern kick on ESPN. You've got the 6th seed Penn State Nittany Lions coming in as an 11-point favorite over the 3 seed Boise State Broncos and Mountain West champs. Talk to your wives right now. Clear the schedule. See if you can get a TV on at your New Year's Eve party. See how you can, get a chance to watch this game, because honestly, man, this one with an 11-point spread, like, don't let it fool you. Boise, I think we're going to really tell in the Boise game and the Arizona State game the fact that we've been talking, the 5 and 6 seed, the easiest paths and everything. I think that the buys and the extra rest time is going to help these teams, especially these two teams who had to play on December 7th, and they're playing teams who played on December 7th as well, but have played an extra game. So they got clear rest advantage there. I think the big thing that stands out is obviously Ashton Jeanty versus the Penn State rush defense, in my mind. Penn State rush defense has really good numbers. I think they're number 6 in the country or so
Yeah,
in
they're
total
six.
rush defense.
They're 6th in the nation in rush D.
But that stat is a little bit misleading because obviously they played in the Big Ten. They didn't play a lot of good teams. We talked about their schedule all season. I don't want to make anybody mad on TikTok any more than we already have. But when they played USC, they gave up 189 on the ground. When they played Ohio State, they gave up 176 on the ground. When they played Oregon, they gave up 186 on the ground. Those are probably the 3 best teams they played all year. And obviously, Boise State doesn't play near the schedule these other Power 4 conferences do. But they did go to Oregon earlier this year. The number 1 team in the country, the only undefeated team left. And Ashton Jeanty hung 192 on them. Now, I know that we saw Oregon's defense in person at Lucas Oil Stadium. We saw Penn State gash them. And so the run defense probably isn't, the height right there for Oregon. But Ashton Jeanty's a beast. Mm-hmm. And it's going to take a lot, especially out in the Fiesta Bowl where Boise State they always seem comfortable to play. It's going to take a lot for that Penn State defense to key on him, which they're going to have to do. They're going to have to load the box, and they're going to have to make Maddox Madsen beat them.
Don't you think that Penn State's going to go into it with the idea at first of we're going to leave Penn State's got 2 legit corners. Yeah. And I think they're going to leave their corners on islands, and they're not going to load any extra guys in the box. Like, I'm sure the safeties will be up a little bit as well. And yeah, I think they're going to try to make Maddox Madsen beat them with his arm. And that kind of leads me to this point. When you think of Boise, obviously you think of the run game, you think of Ashton Jeanty. Dude, Jeanty's yards after contact is 1,889 yards. Mm-hmm. That's a single season record in the CFP era. And he's broken 143 tackles, which is also a record.
Yeah.
75% of his yards this year have come after contact. That tells me 2 things. That Jeanty, obviously, is as good as advertised, and he's as legit as he is. It also tells me that he's getting contacted within 2 yards almost more than any running back in college football. It tells me the offensive line for Boise is not very good. You would think with this many rushing yards that means that the offensive line is. But again, I'm not an offensive line guru. I'm going to lean on our boy Cole Kubelik. And I've listened to Cole Kubelik on his show, The Cube Show, talk about this Boise offensive line and said that, this Boise offensive line is just okay. Like, they're just okay. They're not terrible, but they're not very good either. They're just okay. Mm-hmm. So this will be the best defensive front that they have faced. And the best run defense they have faced by a long shot. So I'm interested to see what can they do to, get some sort of get a hat on a hat to help Jeanty out, because he's going to have to break a lot of tackles in this game.
Penn State's going to have to tackle really well.
They are. Absolutely they are. And so I think that, the whole saying, dance with the one that brung you, I'm just not sure, man, that Boise game plan wise, I'd be shocked, honestly, if their game plan is we're going to do what we do and we're just going to run Jeanty right into the line of scrimmage over and over again. I don't really think they will. I think they're going to, and they know it, they're going to try to they're going to cut it loose. They're going to go the old Boise State Fiesta Bowl and run some trick plays. They're going to be pulling every single thing out of the bag. All these weeks they've had to prepare, they're going to be pulling it all out in this game. And Boise's got a couple solid receivers. Cameron Camper, he's a 6'3", big-bodied receiver on the outsides, had a solid year. He's their leading wide receiver, had about 4 touchdowns as well. The tight end, Matt Lauder, has 6 touchdowns. He leads them in touchdown receptions on the year. They've got a really solid tight end. So I think that Maddox Madsen is going to have to make plays. This game, more than any of these other games, they cannot get down and get behind and be forced to have to press and try to make throws that they don't normally try to make and make plays. They need to stay within this game and stay within one possession, because I just don't think Boise can come from behind in this game. Defensively, Boise's second in the country in sacks on the year. Second in the country. They've got 2 guys, by the way. Their 2 defensive ends are both in the top 20 in sacks among the overall ranked players, top 20 in the country in sacks. There's only 2 other teams that can say that, and that's Oregon and Ole Miss, that have multiple players that are ranked in the top 20 in sacks. And that's Jaden Virgin Morgan. He's one of the defensive ends. He leads them in sacks with 10.5 sacks. And Ahmed Hassanan is second on the team. By the way, I checked it. That is actually how you pronounce it. It's Hassanan. Interesting story on this guy, man. He is the first Egyptian player in FBS Division I football, college football history.
Wow.
2-time All-Mountain West Conference defensive end for them. The dude came over from Egypt, and his brother was a high school football coach in California, and he came over in 2019, and his first year that he ever played organized football was in 2019. And in the COVID-shortened year in 2020, he had to go to some camps, and he went to a big-time camp out there in California and was dominating the modern-day guys and St. John's Bosco guys. And a defensive coordinator at the time for Boise by the name of Spencer Danielson saw him and loved him and brought him to Boise. Now Spencer Danielson's, of course, the head coach at Boise. So they've got 2 really good defensive ends for Boise. Again, this is going to be the best collection of talent that they've had to go against, though. Can they get to Drew Aller on the defensive side? Again, Boise has a solid defense, but honestly, of the Boise defenses of the past, this one is a little weaker compared to other Boise defenses of the past. Kind of like what we talked about with Clemson. Clemson still had a really good defense, but it was, to Clemson standards, wasn't one of the best Clemson defenses we've seen in a while. Boise, same thing. Solid defensively, but not one of the best defenses we've seen for them overall. So they're going to have to be able to get pressure on Aller. Penn State's offense, they're going to try to get the football to Tyler Warren. I don't know that Boise has any guys that can bring him down one-on-one. They're going to have to gang tackle. Singleton and Allen, running backs for Penn State. I expect them to have solid games. For me, for Boise to win this game, they're going to have to force a couple of turnovers on defense. Now, it could happen. I mean, do you think that Boise can force some turnovers and can hang in there defensively against Penn State?
Yeah, we've seen Aller make some mistakes. We know Penn State's wide receivers are not, anything special. I think that they're going to have some turnovers. They're going to have at least one Genty breakaway. He's got to bust one.
Like he did against
70,
Oregon. A lot of those yards came from a really long touchdown run against Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of his yards all season. True. It seemed like every time you got online, you were looking at an Ashton Genty highlight of a 60 or 70-yard touchdown. So he's a big game running back. He's a big play running back. He can break one at any moment. So Penn State's got to watch out for that. I think, to your point, I think Boise State, they can't come out and they can't run Genty just right up the middle every time. They got to come out and try to surprise Penn State right off the bat. Do some really quick passes out to the outside, slants, something like that. Test the cornerbacks a little bit. Get the defense to loosen up and not focus so much on the running game. So if you're gonna get a screen that's 4 or 5 yards, you gotta take anything you can get and try to get Penn State on their heels and thinking just a little bit, because Penn State is probably thinking you got the Heisman runner up, you're gonna try to run them at us. We get that. You saw some of the teams that we played, who Ohio State, Oregon, USC, some of the good teams Penn State's played, they were able to run on the ground on them. So
yeah, I think Boise is going to have to use some misdirection, counters, different things like that to try to keep Penn State defense a little on their heels. Because dude, those linebackers and Abdul Carter and Kobe King coming off the edge, if they do get into a situation where they have to start throwing the football more, man, I just don't know if those tackles can hold up against Penn State's edge rushers and against Penn State's against their overall pressure packages anyway.
Yeah, there's always the James Franklin factor, right? I hate to bring it up. So do you I mean, what do you think? What do you classify that SMU game as? Was that a big game?
Yeah, it was a big game, but it's not the type of game. We talked about it going into that game. I know the Penn State fans are mad at you specifically for your comment about they haven't won a big game. I mean, you're more. I'll give you time. You're more talking about the top 5, top 10 matchups, right?
Yeah, and I guess, and it's the same thing with this Boise game. I'm talking about when they're underdogs.
Yeah,
I mean, since 2017, they're 2-15 straight up when they're an underdog in a game.
Yeah.
So these two games here when they're 8.5-point favorites and now 11-point favorites. I mean,
these aren't the types of games that James Franklin loses.
No,
they're not. And I know everybody likes to pile on him, but like in the bigger games, like again later on, if they are to beat Boise, the Ohio States, the Texases, the Georgias, games like that are the ones that we're really talking about here. Yeah. But yeah, I think a playoff game is a big game, no matter who the opponent is. Yeah. It's a big game.
Okay, so big game, James.
But again, these are not the types of games that they lose. So I'm going to give a game pick here. I'm going to take Penn State to win. I'm not making it a best bet, but we're not scared here to say who we think is going to cover the spread. I think Penn State covers, but I don't think it's a blowout. Could it be? It definitely could be. It definitely could happen. But I think Boise the way that team is built, the way that team is made, I think they can hang tough in this game. I think Spencer Danielson will have that bunch ready to play. I do think Maddox Madsen can make some plays in the passing game. Dirk Cutter, the offensive coordinator for Boise, he's been an OC in the NFL. He's been an OC in college football for a long time. With all of this time to prepare, I do think he'll have a game plan enough. They're not just going to run into the teeth of the defense over and over again against Penn State. I think they do enough to keep it within striking distance, but I could see this game being like a, 27-13 again type of game, 31-17, again, not an absolute blowout, but a game where it doesn't seem like Penn State has ever threatened to lose the game in the second half, and they win and cover.
I'm with you, man. I think Penn State wins and covers, and I actually think that it's going to be a great scenario for all you guys out there trying to watch the game and trying to, hang out for New Year's with your wife and their friends. I don't think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be one where it's a snoozer.
You think it's going to be like an Alabama-Cincinnati type deal a few years ago?
Yeah,
where it's never really threatened, and like Penn State doesn't have to do a ton and pull a lot of tricks out of the bag. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't trust Maddox Madsen at all. The best team they played was Oregon. He was 17 for 40 passing. If Penn State's going to shut down Ashton Genty, Boise's not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. They've had a good season. They probably, should obviously reseed these things and figure out a better way to seed. So Boise could have played last week. They could have got a home game maybe. That would have been fun to watch, get a little positive momentum. But playing Penn State, your first game out, it's a good stage. It's a big stage for Boise. So that'll only help them in the future. Obviously, transfer portal and all that, getting some guys to come there. But hey, I just think right now, I think it's Penn State's time to get to the semifinals.
Nice, man. Hey, our boy Matt Massaros, he lives out there in the Phoenix area. He's going to the game. He texted me that he'll be there.
Okay, we need some intel. We need some boots on the ground there for ATB fans. So, we both got Penn State winning and covering. Peach Bowl, Texas taking on Arizona State, 1 p.m. Eastern on New Year's Day on ESPN in Atlanta. Texas coming in as 13-point favorites. The matchup everyone wants to see is Cam Skattebo against that Texas defense. You and I were on the wrong side of the Big 12 championship. We didn't think Skattebo could do what he did against the Iowa State defense. And I'm going to lean to the fact that we probably don't think Cam Skattebo can repeat that against the Texas defense.
Hold up. We actually did say that we thought Skattebo would get his against Iowa State. We didn't think that they'd be able to throw the football as well against them. And Sam Levitt did throw the ball really well because their top receiver was out.
Yeah.
But we didn't think Skattebo was going to go that off again.
I guess I should have said we thought that Iowa State was going to be able to key in on Skattebo.
Yeah.
And they couldn't. And to your point, Arizona State threw the ball. And we saw what Kate Klubnik did last week to the secondary of Texas. And we know Skattebo is going to be involved in the passing game. He's going to be involved in the running game. Levitt's going to have to make some plays. It's obviously a lofty spread. Quinn Ewers, man, if I'm a Texas fan, I just don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. You're a 13-point favorite, so you feel comfortable you're going to win the game, but it's just, there's something about Quinn Ewers and you're just I just don't know if I can trust this dude in this offense. And
I just have a feeling, man, he's going to have one game in this playoff that's going to be like the Quinn Ewers legacy game that we talked about. Because right now, all he's had, legacy game-wise, in the really big games, I'm not counting Oklahoma State last year in the Big 12 championship game. Like, if you're a Texas fan, you're playing for championships and you're playing for bigger games. I know it's a Big 12 championship, but still, that Oklahoma State defense was booty. His game that he had in Tuscaloosa last year at Alabama was by far his best game that he's had against the best competition that he's played against.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're right. He kind of leaves you, like, again, desiring more when you watch him play.
I mean, when we think about it with Texas, over the past 2 years, that's really the biggest game that they've won.
Mm-hmm.
All the other games that they played Washington in the semis last year, lost.
Yep.
They played Georgia twice this year, lost.
Yep.
They played Oklahoma last year in the Red River, lost.
Yep. That's the best teams they've played against.
I mean,
the best teams they've played against, they've lost. You're right. The Alabama game at Alabama earlier in the year last year was by far their best win in the last 2 years.
Luckily for them, Arizona State, comes in, they ranked 15th, 14th, something like that, in the rankings. So they were a team that got in there by virtue of winning the Big 12 conference. Props to Kenny Dillingham and the Sun Devils, man. Like, it's an unbelievable turnaround for this team.
It's remarkable. And to that point, man, I know you respect him, but Dillingham is legit as an offensive mind. He's a really good head coach, but taking away the head coach part, he's a legit offensive mind. And Marcus Arroyo, the offensive coordinator, is also a very legit offensive mind. Putting those two together.
Dan Lanning loves Kenny Dillingham.
Yes. And putting those two together and having weeks to prepare like this, they will have a solid game plan. And I can promise you, they're not going to just, again, they know that this Texas defense is the best rushing defense in college football. Mm-hmm. It's the best.
Yeah.
And they know that they can't just line up and just run between the tackles left and right with Scott. I know they'll try some. Of course, they're going to run the football with that guy. Absolutely. Just like Genty with Boise. They're going to run the football. But as far as just that's their game plan, just lining up and running left and running right and up the middle against this right into the teeth of this Texas defensive front, like Texas A&M tried to do, that's not going to happen. Like Clemson wants to run the football too, but you saw they pretty much just went straight air raid with Klubnik because they knew that was their best chance.
Yeah.
Sam Leavitt, for Arizona State to stay in this game, for them to have a chance to win, they're going to have to force a couple of turnovers like we were talking about with Ewers. They're going to have to get the bad version of Ewers and force a couple of turnovers, get to him, sack him, cause some fumbles, something like that. And Sam Leavitt's going to have to make plays. With his feet, he's capable with his feet as well, and he's going to have to make some plays in the passing game. So it's going to be interesting to see what Dillingham has drawn up to try to face against this Texas defense because the defense is legit. As far as Texas is concerned, dude, that rushing attack all year long from all of the better teams in college football, that was the best rushing performance that we've seen all year from Jaden Blue and Wisner. I mean, they both had over 100 yards averaged. I mean, Wisner averaged 8 yards a carry, and Jaden Blue averaged 10 yards a carry. So you know they're going to run the football. When Sark's offense is cooking is when they're running the football, play action, and taking shots. So can Arizona State hold up against the run? We're going to find out because Texas is going to try to run the football. I do think Texas has success. I got to be honest with you, man. I think this is a really bad matchup for Arizona State. I just think it's a bad matchup. And what's the line right now?
13. It's actually bigger than the Penn State-Boise game, but I think I'll go ahead and say it. I think Texas is going to win the game. I think this has a greater probability of an upset than Boise beating Penn State.
I can see that. Are you saying that because of your belief in Dillingham, Marcus Arroyo, and the quarterback situation at Arizona State, as opposed to you just don't, like you said a minute ago, you just don't have much faith in Maddox Madsen to be able to go and make enough plays against Penn State's defense?
Yeah, dude. Sam Leavitt is a dog.
He is, dude.
He is, and a true he's not a true freshman. He's a redshirt freshman, but I think he can make some plays. Like, I think he can surprise the Texas defense a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree it's a terrible matchup for Arizona State, but I mean, I just think, again, I keep going back to Ewers in the offense, and I don't think Arizona State. It's really hard to fully trust them.
Yeah, I don't think Arizona State's going to be able to stop Texas. Is my problem. I can see Arizona State having a little success in the passing game with Leavitt, but again, this may not be a blowout. It may be like a 13-point line. Texas, just like with Clemson, Like, we both had them. You had them at 13 against Clemson. I had them at 12, and Texas won by 14. You know, it wasn't a blowout, but Texas covered. I think it could be very similar. I could see Texas winning this game, a pretty similar score like they did against Clemson. I could also see Texas blowing them out. So I am going to make it a best bet. I've got Texas as a best bet to cover the 13. I think Texas wins this game, and I think they cover the 13-point spread against our boy Kenny Dillingham and the Fun Devils.
Wow. Okay. A best bet on Texas minus 13 in the Peach Bowl, where Bevo's not even allowed to be.
Well, that might be, I didn't think about that. That might be the difference.
You got one mascot there that's literally the devil, and you can't even have your mascot there. And the Texas fans are enraged. They are the fans that are just the best at being enraged over just the minor inconveniences.
Yeah, man, the horns down and everything else. Good Lord. But hey, they don't need Bevo, bro. They got the Texas running game that they're bringing to Atlanta. That's their version of Bevo.
I'm hoping it's a good game. I mean, for your sake, I'm hoping Texas wins by 35. We cheer for each other's bets here, but
I have to win by 35. They can win by 40. It could be a really good game, and Texas punching a score at the end and win by 14.
Sure. Yeah, there you go. We know these next two are going to be really good games. We hope they're going to be really good games. Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, 5 p.m. Eastern, out in Los Angeles and Pasadena. Oregon taking on Ohio State. Rose Bowl's got to get their 5 p.m. Eastern kickoff. They got to get that sunset in the fourth quarter. Like, God forbid they never get that. So Oregon had the week off last week. Ohio State just put a beat down on Tennessee. And that really opened everybody's eyes because Oregon was a favorite, and now Ohio State is favored by 2.5 in this game. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. That's a ridiculously crazy line move in my mind.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's some recency bias with obviously how the Buckeyes look like the Death Star.
It feels like exactly what happened to Washington last year against Oregon when they played.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew when this breakdown you were going to bring that game up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just feels like, I think they played at Washington and Oregon was a favorite. And then they get to the Pac-12 championship, and gosh, it got up to like
Oregon was like 9.5.
9 points. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, no disrespect to Ohio State, I'm just not sure that I believe that they can duplicate that 99 out of 100 performance they put up. I mean, that was as close to perfection as you can get, especially in that first quarter.
Do you know what's wild? Like I heard this the other day, and I couldn't agree more. Like we talked about it, dude. Ohio State played really well at Oregon. Like the second best that they played all year long, outside of that Tennessee game, was at Oregon, and they still lost. That tells you how good Oregon played in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I keep going back to that game, and I don't think that Ohio State's secondary has been tested like that since that game.
Not at all.
And I still think that they're going to have major issues. I don't think that you're just going to be able to fix those over the last, 2 months. I just think
I agree.
Igbinosun and Denzel Burke, like, they're going to struggle covering those guys. And who wouldn't, right? I mean, we watched them in person. Like, everybody would struggle covering Tez Johnson and Evan Stewart and Trayshawn Holden, those guys. Heck, if Trayshawn Holden stays in that game and doesn't spit in that guy's face, they got one more weapon out there for the second half. So,
yeah, dude, I mean, for real, both of these teams have guys that just, they're actually uncoverable. Like, you can't stop them. If you decide your game plan is, I'm going to that guy, your defense won't be able to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, he's a different type of receiver than Tez Johnson, but like the way he plays, you're not stopping him if Ohio State decides we're going to get that guy involved and we're going to him. You're not stopping him.
Yeah.
And same thing for Tez Johnson. Like Tyler and I, we've obviously seen a lot of football and went to a lot of football games live, as I'm sure a lot of you people listening have. I've been to a lot of Alabama games and seen some of the best receivers and some of the best talent on the field for whoever they were playing and for them. Like I was at the 2019 LSU Alabama game with Joe Burrow and that crew, where there were so many NFL first rounders at receiver and on offense in those games. Tez Johnson is the quickest, fastest, in and out of breaks player that I've ever watched live. When you and I went to the Big Ten championship game, I've never seen somebody go from one direction and go to the other and be in full speed just like that. like he can.
Yeah.
So to your point, yeah, like I think both of these teams, again, last game, I mean, Oregon, to me, the winner of this game, just like in most big games, who can win the line of scrimmage and who can prevent the other from hitting explosive plays and who's going to make the mistakes. Those three things. Ohio State lost the battle in all of those three phases the last game. Oregon had 8 plays of 20-plus yards against Ohio State. To Tyler's point, talking about those receivers and how good they were. 8 plays of 20-plus yards against Ohio State. Ohio State had 6 plays of 20-plus yards against Oregon. Both of those numbers are really good. But again, Oregon won that battle in that situation. And Ohio State, they ran the ball well when you look at the numbers. But when you really dive into it, I'm a sicko. I went and pulled up the drive charts of each of these teams in this game. Travion Henderson had 70 yards on 2 carries, and they were both early in the game. The rest of their carries, 30 combined for Ohio State. 31 carries for 71 yards. That's under 3 yards a carry. So outside of those 2 long runs from Travion Henderson, they didn't do much running the football. So Oregon pretty much controlled the line of scrimmage from the defensive side of the ball. So I think both of these teams, quarterbacks, who do you trust more? I think, again, I know Will Howard went full on like the game of his life against Tennessee. To your point, can he duplicate that?
Yeah.
Maybe he can with those receivers. I'm of the belief that I think that Oregon's going to be able to get some pressure on them with that defensive line, more so than what Tennessee did. And I think Oregon's going to be able to hold up against the run as well. But, man, those receivers for Ohio State, I don't think that Oregon's going to be able to stop them.
Do you think that Ohio State is going to go the Tennessee game plan?
Yes.
And air the ball out?
Yes.
Because, or are they going to watch, they watched the Big Ten championship game and they saw what Penn State did on the ground to Oregon. And I could totally see Ryan Day and Chip Kelly saying, well, shoot, Penn State can do that. We can do that too.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Now, I do think they'll run the ball some. I mean, they ran the ball some against Tennessee. And because they threw the ball so well and they had Tennessee just seeing ghosts and off balance and on their heels, they were able to run the ball some. I think it'll be very similar to the part of like what we talked about a minute ago. I could see Ohio State having 20 to 25 carries total in this game, around 25 carries total in this game. 20 of them don't go for anything, don't really do a whole lot, and 5 or 6, they pop them because of how good Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins are and how explosive those guys are. I could also see Ohio State running Will Howard in a more QB power run game to try to open up the run game a little bit. I could see that as well. But, man, it's just a fact. We said this going into this playoff. Which quarterbacks do you trust the most? Your quarterback is going to have to win you games. Will Howard was fantastic against Tennessee. He was also fantastic against Oregon the first time that they played. He was. Can he do it again? If he does, Ohio State's going to win this game. If he doesn't, Oregon's going to win this game. I think that Ohio State's defense, I'm going to give a game pick here. I think Ohio State's defense, with that defensive line, the defensive line for Ohio State played the best game they've played all year against Tennessee. I do think that is something that can be duplicated and that defensive front for Ohio State is going to be the difference in this game. I think the Buckeyes get it done. I think we are in for a classic. A good old Rose Bowl, Big Ten versus old Pac-12. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think these offenses with the skill position, the 2 teams in the country with the best overall collection of skill position players are going to be on this field together. I just think those guys are too good for these defenses to just stop each other. But I think Ohio State's defensive front is good enough to slow Oregon down. They make enough plays. They make a few more explosive plays than Oregon, and I think the Buckeyes get it done. And I think it's a 2 or 2.5 point line right now.
It's 2.5.
2.5. I'll take Ohio State to cover. I think they win somewhere between in a 1-possession game, and they cover the 2.5.
Yeah, the game that they played in October was, in my mind, easily the best game of the year. 32-31 Oregon. Ohio State on the road, 2 turnovers to Oregon 0, and then basically 1 second away from having a game-winning field goal attempt. Yep. Obviously, seeing what we see with Ohio State's kicker now, no clue if that would have gone in or not, but would have had a chance. I think Will Howard definitely wants, revenge, payback. He just wants a second chance at this team. I think Ohio State wants a second chance at this team. I think after that Michigan game, like they're pissed, and Ryan Day's pissed.
Yeah, they're on a mission.
Yeah, they're on a mission. They seem to be on a mission, and I think the Rose Bowl is going to be a neutralized venue. I think that I think there are going to be plenty of Ohio State fans there.
Yeah, it may be like 60-40, but there'll be plenty.
Yeah, they will travel out to Pasadena for a Rose Bowl any day of the week.
Yeah.
And I just think that as much as I want to pick Oregon in this game, I'm with you, man. I think Ohio State is going to get the job done, and they're going to move on to the semis where we might see them play Texas, which would be a fantastic game. So we'll see. It should be a good game. The last game of the quarterfinals in New Orleans, Sugar Bowl, 8:45 Eastern kickoff, tentatively, probably later. Ugh. And it's Notre Dame versus Georgia. Notre Dame coming in as a 7 seed, Georgia as the 2 seed. Georgia is the 2-point favorite. Money has swung their way since Notre Dame opened up as a 1.5 point favorite. So money coming in on Georgia early. I think obviously just the respect factor that everybody has for Kirby Smart, for what Georgia has built over the years, the program they've built. Everybody's putting a heck of a lot of faith in him and that Georgia defense. And I just think like that it's a case where until Notre Dame proves it on a big stage like this, everyone's always going to have their doubts. And so when the dogs opened up as dogs, everyone said, yeah, let's jump on it.
Yeah. I mean, man, I think this is the 2 most physically imposing physical football teams in the country that are going to be clashing in the Big Easy New Year's night. And this will not be for the faint of heart. I think that I'm just interested to see, man, like, I know most years Notre Dame plays a significantly tougher schedule than what they played this year. I mean, they just haven't. Like, going up against a Kirby Smart Georgia team in a big game where you have obviously their full attention, championships are on the line type stuff, like really big game like this, it's just different, man. It just is. Ask Texas about it. When they got hit in the mouth, they thought they were ready in Austin. Then they got hit in the mouth, and they found out. And I'm not saying
Kirby's probably wishing they were underdogs in this game.
I'm sure he is. But they came out as underdogs, so he's probably selling that somehow or whatever. And they got their backup quarterback playing. We'll get to that here in a minute. But I do think that how Notre Dame is built, Marcus Freeman, my favorite saying that I've said on like every episode of our podcast since he said it, that they want to come out and be violent is what they want to be. They'll have to be in this game. They will have to be as violent as they've ever been to win this game because Georgia's going to line up and test your will. And they're doing it with guys that are 300 plus pounds and 260 plus on the edges and that are running faster than your wide receivers, and they've just got guys that other teams don't, man, along their defensive front, and they've got them in waves. So for me, it's that simple. Can Notre Dame, can they hold up and block Georgia's defensive front? Now, Mike Denbrock is one of the best offensive coordinators in college football. Obviously, if I'm Mike Denbrock, I'm taking a look at who would you, on Georgia's schedule, would you say that Riley Leonard's most comparable comp would be Haynes King?
Yeah, I literally was going to talk about that Georgia Tech game.
Yeah. So Haynes King and that attack that you saw Brent Key and Georgia Tech do against Georgia in that game. and Kirby Smart's not stupid, guys. I mean, obviously, he's the best coach in college football. Like, I'm sure he knows that that's probably going to be at some point during this game, Notre Dame's going to go to the Georgia Tech well, and see if that type of game plan and that type of attack from the quarterback run position, like with Riley Leonard, can that work against this Georgia defense like it did against Georgia Tech? So how does that, like, the game within the game, the chess match between the coaches, is Georgia going to be ready for that? Can they stop it? And you can know that something like that's coming, but stopping it's a different thing. And on the flip side of that, though, dude, I mean, Georgia's played some really good teams, obviously, this year. They've got the top strength of schedule in college football. But overall, like, rushing attack from the quarterback position and the running back position, like, equally balanced, this is the best rushing attack they faced. I know Alabama with Jalen Milroe is a really good runner, and they had trouble with him. But at halftime, Kirby Smart made adjustments, and Milroe couldn't do anything running the football in the second half in that game.
That's actually not a bad comp right there either. I mean, Leonard's not as fast as Milroe, obviously, but when Crane was on our show, he talked about just the way Riley Leonard runs.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they could do power runs with him around. I mean, I can't get that picture out of my mind either. Just Jalen Milroe just taking quarterback sweeps around the right side and just bolting up the sideline.
Yeah. Yeah.
Georgia's had trouble with three-headed attacks in the backfield for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, again, the Nick Saban, Kirby Smart defense, the kryptonite against it is a dual threat quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. Emphasis on dual threat. You can't just be a good runner. You literally have to be dual threat. Like, you have to make explosive plays in the passing game, because the odds of you in a big game going up against Kirby Smart's defense and you methodically moving the ball down the field, which Notre Dame loves to do, the 16-play, 13-play, long, sustaining drives where they just take your will. Again, if they can do that in this game, they're going to win. But the chances of that being true, I don't think that's – I got to see it to believe it. Mm-hmm. I told you this in a text message weeks ago. I've yet to see a team, and if you want to fact check me on this after this, not you, but anybody out there, I've yet to see a team just line up in power formation type football like Notre Dame's going to do and just run the football down Kirby Smart's throat in a big game like this. You're going to have to be able to make plays in the passing game. So, can Riley Leonard create some plays in the passing game? And then number two, can they force some turnovers against Gunnar Stockton in this Georgia offense? We've seen people all the time, man, when somebody goes down and another guy comes in, it elevates the play of everybody else around them. But, dude, make no mistake. Like, Texas is a great defense, and Gunnar Stockton, they came from behind to win that game with Gunnar Stockton at quarterback. So he's seen a good defense. But now you've got Al Golden, Marcus Freeman, and this incredible defensive, like, just minds together, and this really good defense for Notre Dame. Have weeks to prepare for you. I know Gunnar Stockton doesn't have a lot of tape, but still, they know who they're playing at the quarterback position with Stockton. And he's going to have his work cut out for him, man, against this Notre Dame. Just fascinating, dude. I think both of these defenses obviously are going to be able to control this game.
Yeah, I'd almost rather feel more comfortable with Carson Beck out there than Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Beck's a great quarterback, sure.
But he wants to throw the ball to you, the other team.
It's just the unknowns you face, too, with a guy who doesn't have a lot of tape out there like Stockton. So,
and it seems like that team loves him, just his mentality.
Yeah. I mean, he's just like, Kirby almost thrives better with a quarterback like that and with a quarterback like Stetson Bennett, right? Who's not going to be taking the limelight away from the rest of the team. That's the type of quarterback that Kirby just loves.
Yeah, he wants to run. He wants to run the football and play defense.
Yeah, yeah. So
speaking of that, ETN, he's healthy now. Frazier, dude, this is the healthiest that Georgia has been all year. And on the flip side of that, bro, you and I have talked about it all year. The Notre Dame injuries, man, are incredible, are insane. Mm-hmm.
I've
never seen anything like it.
Yeah,
from a team like to this level that's gotten this far, that has lost so many of their best players. I
think they've lost 3 captains to season-long injury.
Yeah, dude, and that's where we'll get to that here in a second. Go ahead.
Well, that's just, I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, there's no excuses. A program like Notre Dame can backfill, with not as talented players, but they have depth there. So it's just, if they get injuries during this game at those positions at D line, and because we know Howard Cross is not 100% right now. Obviously, Riley Mills is out. Those are the two guys up front. Jack Kaiser at linebacker. If they get injuries at those positions, it's going to be tough to backfill during games. So they're going to have to force, like you said, force Gunnar Stockton to make some mistakes. They're going to have to shut down Etienne in the run game.
That's the key, man. That's the key right there for Notre Dame. The two things, like they've got to be able to protect Leonard, and they've got to be able to slow down the Georgia running game and force both teams. Obviously, want to stop the run and force the other team's quarterback to beat you with their arm.
Yeah.
Which team has the quarterback that makes the least amount of mistakes and has the quarterback that can make plays in the passing game is going to win this game.
Yeah. Riley Leonard, I mean, he doesn't have to be a world beater, but you got to make just a couple plays here and there. Your wide receivers have to make a couple plays here and there to get the ball down the field, to keep the defense honest, to open up those lanes for Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love.
Is Love healthy?
I don't know if anybody on Notre Dame is 100% healthy. So he's going to play.
That's a good point.
That's for sure. He's going to play. They're all going to tough it out. This is a game where if you watch the IU game, they didn't run Riley Leonard a lot in that game.
Didn't have to.
And so, probably trying to, conserve his energy, keep him a little bit healthy because, they knew who was on deck. They knew they got to face Georgia. And this is a game where, if Leonard's got to carry it 20 times, he's got to carry it 20 times.
Dude, he's a dog and he's tough. Bro, he's going to have to be tough in this one. He is going to take some licks in this game.
And this is a game where we've said it all year. Marcus Freeman does not shy. He doesn't care about if it's a big game or not. Like, he thrives in big games. It's the Marshalls in the Northern Illinois that he has trouble with. And they proved it on the road at A&M earlier this year. They've, Notre Dame has played Georgia, I think in 17 and 19. They were 1-point games. They were 6-point games. And those are some really good Georgia teams. Again, it was the same thing that happened in the first game of that series. Jake Fromm comes in, his first start in Notre Dame Stadium, and then, you know what happened. He wins the game and goes on to do great things at Georgia. And it's like, gosh, could this be the start of like the Gunnar Stockton era, right? And you just like wonder if this is going to be the launching point. So I don't know. Yeah, it's just going to be it's going to be tough. I mean, Georgia has faced a grueling schedule. They faced some tough opponents. So it's going to be a good one.
It is, man. And all right, I'm going to give a game pick here. If you are a fan of just pads popping, hard hitting, old school football, that's what you're going to get in this game. Again, these two teams are the most physical, violent football teams that we have in our sport, and they're clashing in the Big Easy. And I just think, man, that Notre Dame's plethora of injuries are going to catch up to them in this game against a team that is as good as Georgia. I think they're going to have trouble with Georgia's defensive front, just like just about everybody does. And I think that Gunnar Stockton will make enough plays. Georgia will have enough success on offense. It won't be pretty. They're not going to just light Notre Dame up offensively. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, hard-hitting, not for the faint of heart type of game. And I think Georgia wins around a one-possession game and they cover.
Yes, that's what I'm hoping for. I was hoping Lance would pick Georgia. He picked A&M at the beginning of the year. We're just going to bookend it with losses for Lance to cover. I hope he puts $1,000 down on Georgia. So, no, I mean, obviously, I want Notre Dame to win. I think they can win. It's just going to be really, really tough. I mean, the injury to Riley Mills is really tough for them. They've been able to overcome all the other injuries throughout the season that have happened to some really good players, some All-Americans, but it's going to be tough for them. I'm not going to give a pick. I mean, I'm going to, hope Notre Dame wins the game, but it should be a fun one. I mean, it should be good. I mean, I think the way Marcus Freeman coaches, I think the way Notre Dame plays, I'd be surprised, really surprised, given how Georgia's played throughout the year too. I'd be surprised if they blow them out. And so, we'll see. We'll see if Georgia, did take those 3 weeks to rest up and take advantage of that. We'll see if Notre Dame playing against IU, 7 days ago, if they got, some momentum built up, built on some things on offense and on defense. So we'll see. It should be a good game. Either way, man, looking forward to watching these quarterfinals. I'm looking forward to just trying to chill out, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, just watch some football. It should be a blast. We got some other games on New Year's Eve, other bowl games. I know your boys are playing Michigan. You got Baylor, LSU, probably 3 or 4 games before that Penn State games kicks off. So anything else?
No, man. I just think these games are going to be better, highly contested, a little bit better than our first round games that we had, especially that Sugar Bowl and the Rose Bowl. I mean, that's just 2 incredible matchups. Not to belittle the other matchups. I think they're going to be solid games as well. But I think we're going to be more highly contested in these matchups as opposed to the first round games that we got on those home campuses.
Yeah. Okay. That's it for us. Hope you guys have a happy new year. Enjoy watching the games. We'll be back at some point in the future. We don't know what the schedule is going to look like here, but we'll be back to try to recap the games. Check out, Twitter Spaces. We might hop on one of those. We might do a live recap if we're feeling like it, whatever. So we'll just roll with the punches here. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Follow along, share with your friends, and enjoy some football. Until next time.